Welcome to the Sage 100 connector for Creatio overview video. To quickly level set for you, Creatio is an AI-native CRM platform that champions the concept of no-code customization. Sage 100 is an incredibly flexible and reliable legacy ERP solution that empowers thousands of customers across many industries. Malik Inc. has worked with CRM at Sage 100 since 2013, and we've seen firsthand how CRM has continuously been a struggle for most Sage 100 customers, not only to approach, but to adopt. From that, we decided to do something about that challenge by building an integrated product that creates a seamless path of enablement between Sage 100 ERP and Creatio, and we're incredibly excited to introduce our product to the Sage 100 customer and partner ecosystems. We'll start by sharing the out-of-the-box features that are enabled after completing the initial configuration and setup. Everything regarding the connector will be packaged into a workplace within the Creatio system titled Sage 100. When we select it, you'll see all the sections within Creatio. Let's do a quick tour of each unique object and what it does. Sage 100 Company allows you to synchronize one or multiple companies in Creatio. This connector uses the Sage 100 REST API to create an endpoint related to a company. The companies can reside on one Sage 100 server or multiple Sage 100 servers. Think of it as a way to easily separate your test Sage 100 server versus your live server, or from the perspective of an organization that has multiple company codes in Sage 100, you can separate those by endpoint. In either scenario, you can link multiple companies and have the data exist side by side together or separately in different Sage 100 and Creatio connected instances. We've synchronized Sage 100 users for a couple of key reasons. One, for easy identification by system administrators to quickly correlate changes in Sage 100 to the user that made the change. It's a small win, but an additional dimension when it comes to troubleshooting issues and research. Two, easily tying user codes to Creatio users. This is another way to identify who did what and when. It also allows us to pivot from this transaction was performed by user A to user A performed all of these transactions, effectively pivoting away from single transaction research to quickly identifying everything someone may or may not have changed at the Sage 100 or Creatio level. While that's not a wow factor in any way, it definitely creates some quick wins for system administrators. Synchronizing warehouses gives us better visibility of our inventory. Not only do we synchronize Sage 100 item warehouses, which we'll get to in a moment, but we can also go into a warehouse to see what items are stored where within the warehouse and stock levels associated with that item and their locations. Products or Sage 100 items synchronized to Creatio. We tend to sync more than what's needed, but as a reminder, if a user should or shouldn't see things, we can establish permissions within Creatio to either show or hide them on a role-by-role basis or a user-by-user basis. Not only can we see basic item information, but we can also take a look at the warehouse and inventory information related to a given item. Sage 100 Salesperson and Salesperson History allows us to do two primary things. One, to tie ownership of accounts, sales orders, and anything that uses a salesperson code to a Creatio user. Some of our customers have multiple salesperson codes for each salesperson, establishing better visibility across AR divisions or for commission reporting. And two, easier access to performance metrics for salespeople. Not only will sales managers get better visibility into a salesperson's performance, but the salesperson themselves can see how they're trending without having to keep a log of it themselves. You're creating a centralized understanding and perception of how performance is being measured, not only by the sales manager, but the salesperson as well. Sage 100 Item Warehouse is an easy way to publish inventory availability from Sage 100 to Creatio. Simply click into any record here and you'll be able to see how the item's inventory is for that specific location, but also how it breaks across other locations and warehouses. Sage 100 Integration Guidance and Audit Log are primarily for system administrator use. The integration guidance is a mechanism that allows system administrators to publish guidance to users when creating or updating records from Creatio to Sage 100. For example, when an AR division, salesperson, terms code, or tax schedule should be used in what scenario when creating or updating a customer record. We'll discuss all of this in more detail when we cover creating and updating records from Creatio to Sage 100, which will follow the section overview. The audit log is exactly what you think it might be. an audit log of transactions that are automatically populated when synchronizing records from Sage 100 to Creatio. This is populated automatically. The goal is to provide another helpful mechanism for tracking down issues quickly or automating notifications when an error occurs, taking system administration from a reactive perspective to a proactive one. Vendors and vendor contacts allows us to establish relationship management at the vendor level. Relationship management happens at multiple levels nowadays, and vendor management is something more and more companies are paying attention to and putting an emphasis on. Identifying your best vendors and ensuring that you're being just as proactive and intentional with them as you are your customers is becoming increasingly important. Here, we're going to click into an example of a vendor that's been synchronized from Sage 100 into Creatio, and we can see that we have the ability of logging outreaches, when it happened, when the next time we want to talk to them is, and what we'll do. Additionally, we can see vendor contacts, as well as some of the key information related to that vendor. Accounts and contacts are where we start getting into more familiar territory for Sage 100 users. These are your customers, your customer contacts, and ship to addresses. The latter is stored at the account level, which you can see here. We're synchronizing a significant amount of data here, so there's no shortage of what we can do with it once it's in Creatio. Here you can see all of the standard tabs information that you would normally find in Sage 100 populated here inside of Creatio. So things like collection efforts can actually be data-driven decisions, as well as tracking those interactions within the Creatio system as well. So no longer hounding customers for AR receivables, but having a more human and consistent approach to them. Sage 100 customer history is your high-level performance information about your customers. From a top-line revenue perspective, you can see how a customer is trending over any period of time. If you're syncing data across multiple years, then that just adds to the overall conversation. And again, we can show and hide columns based off of what people should or shouldn't see. So things such as cost of goods sold or gross profit might be something that you want to hide from standard people's eyes, but show to the finance team. We're going to skip over opportunities because that's really just a housing mechanism intended to be connected to sales orders. And within sales orders, we have your standard sales order header and detail tables, which that's a very important distinction, as this is not the history of your sales orders. This is just your active sales orders that are currently in an active sales cycle or just simply housed on the sales order table. If we click into any one of these, we can actually see the top level information from a header perspective, address, totals, as well as sales order lines. And you may have noticed on the totals tab, we're also synchronizing and showcasing invoices connected to this particular sales order, which brings us to Sage 100 invoices, invoice lines, and tracking. We have everything related to your invoices from a history perspective. These three sections are in fact tied to your invoice history header, history detail, and history tracking tables, providing the most accurate visibility into a customer's purchase history, item pricing, and shipping and tracking information. This will provide a new way of slicing and dicing your customer's performance data over time. This also creates some opportunities for efficiencies when it comes to notifying salespeople or customers about shipments. That's a quick run through of all sections of the integration. Let's walk through some of the hands-on capabilities of the Sage 100 connector for Creatio. And we'll go back to our home screen. We mentioned earlier that once the data is in Creatio, we can do a lot with it. The Sage 100 homepage is a very simple and shallow example of transforming data into stories. Here we have a list of our accounts in Creatio. By default, it's everything. However, we now have access to Creatio's folder mechanism. Folders allow us to quickly filter sets of data, and if we're displaying analytics as well, those analytics can adapt to each folder. It's a very simple concept, but imagine being an account manager or a salesperson who is about to reach out to a customer. Wouldn't it be amazing if you can go to one place, click on a customer, and see everything about that customer without having to do extensive research? Click on a customer, see their history, validate any possible issues or challenges they might have, and start the conversation better prepared to engage in a more informed and meaningful way, thereby increasing your overall customer's experience. And as we click through our list of customers, you can see that the analytics will adapt based off of the record that we are activating. Let's move on to working with prospects. Here we have a couple of prospects, 918 Dentist and Chamber of Commerce Glenpool. So if we come into 918 Dentist, we can see that we've built a fairly robust profile for this company. They have a couple of shipping addresses, they have a couple of contacts, they have a primary contact, and they've got a website. We've engaged with them, they've shown interest, and we've finally gotten to a point where they want to quote. Up to this point, we've been able to track information related to the prospect, including key contacts, any type of engagements from a timeline perspective, sales, so on and so forth. This is not a customer yet, but they've asked us to quote a need. Using our connector, we can create a quote in Sage 100 without having to add them as a customer. In Sage 100, there's a, let's call it a master prospect account. And we can go find that here. We'll go to customer maintenance and we'll type in prospect. This is something that we typically set up in the actual installation and configuration process, but consider this a house account that no one person owns. They don't have a credit limit. In Sage 100, we use this account to create all of our prospect quotes, but through Creatio, and we're able to track which prospect quote belongs to which prospect. Let's go back to Creatio and we'll show you how to do that. Let's go to our sales orders. We'll create a new sales order, filter it by the company, and then select the account. We can select it from the dropdown or we can type it, which will filter the list. And now we provide our header level information, which we can do here. So we'll set this out for 829. Pick a tax schedule, which is populated from Sage 100, terms code, which is populated from Sage 100, warehouse, salesperson, pretty much everything else that would typically be found at the header level. Let's go to the addresses. We'll select the account, and then we can specify which ship to we want to use. Do we want to use their primary location or their Sperry office? We'll select that. And from here, we can start entering our lines. We'll go back to our header, click the plus sign. So we'll send them a quote for a desk. They want one. We want to use the Sage 100 pricing, so we're not going to type in a unit price. No discount, and we'll set the promise date to a week later, which I think that's a week later. We'll save that. The values along the left-hand side will continue to update. Please keep in mind, everything from a Creatio perspective is set at the non-taxable amount when we are working with a quote or order within Creatio. When we push this to Sage 100, it will use the tax classifications on an item-by-item basis, calculate the tax, and then we will pull that information back into Creatio. And you can see that in a moment. Let's add one more line. And here we're just going to type the word desk, and this is going to show us everything that has the word desk in either the item code or the description. So we'll select one of those. We'll actually give this one a discount. Same promise date. And we'll say 50% off accessories. Save that, it calculates it, and here we can scroll over and see that the discount has been calculated. So if we're ready and there's nothing else to do, and now we can push this from Creatio to Sage 100. And we can do that by going to the Integration Actions button, click the button, and we'll see the options that are available to us. What's available in this dropdown will adjust based off of the status of the record that we are working with. So if there's already a connection between this record and a Sage 100 record, it will say update instead of create. We'll click the Create Sage 100 Sales Order button. We will get a prompt, basically a last chance to either cancel or proceed. And this is by design. We don't want people to accidentally push records from Creatio to Sage 100, specifically sales orders. If we click the proceed button, it doesn't look like anything happens, but in the background, what is actually happening is Creatio is communicating with Sage 100 via the REST API. It is pushing the data across, gathering pricing information, pulling that back into Creatio. And as you can see, the totals have updated based off of the item codes, their tax classifications, and based off of the tax schedule that we selected, it's also calculating the sales tax amount for us as well. And this is all using Sage 100's pricing logic and hierarchy. So we're not recreating any of that within Creatio. We're simply just outsourcing that to the place where it already exists. If we go into Sage 100 and take a look at that sales order, we can see that it's using our master prospect account, but at the address level, it's got the correct information. The lines look the exact same as we see inside of Creatio. We can see the totals. So effectively, this is working the way that it's supposed to. Now, inside of Creatio, we can continue to modify it. So for example, if they want 2 instead of 1, you can do that. But the moment that you make a change and there is a misalignment between the data inside of Creatio and Sage 100, you will see some sort of prompt on the screen. This is just an example of one that we've designed for this specific scenario. And basically this is telling the user that, hey, you need to now communicate this change, the changes from the sales order that you've made in Creatio to Sage 100. And to do that, we'll go back to our integration actions button and click the update Sage 100 sales order button. Click proceed, again, giving us a prompt and making sure we're absolutely certain that's what we want to do. And if we pay attention to this section here, we'll see it adapt. The taxable amount has adjusted, everything's been recalculated, and we are now back in alignment with what is in Sage 100. Now, when it comes to promoting a prospect to an actual customer, we've tried to make this as easy as possible inside of Creatio. If we try and promote this to an order, it won't let us. Basically, if we try and push this across, Creatio has safeguards in place to ensure that we're never promoting a prospect quote to a prospect order, because there's some validation and some best practices that need to happen from a customer onboarding standpoint. So let's go to the 918 dentist account. And from here, we can now promote this particular prospect to a customer and take advantage of all the manual data entry that we've already done and pushing that into Sage 100. So if we click the Create New Customer button, we're now shown the Sage 100 Customer Sync screen. This allows us to validate any of the information that we have collected before pushing it to Sage 100. And this is where the integration guidance becomes very important. If someone has the capability and access to create records inside of Sage 100 from Creatio, whether that be at the account level, contact level, address level, sales order level, whatever it might be, we want to make sure that they have the necessary guidance associated with what's necessary to create that record in Sage 100. As an example, there's a minimum set of information that's required for all Sage 100 systems. You need a name, division number, customer number, you need terms, and the salesperson number at the very least, which is why all of these are set to be required inside of Creatio. We can validate the information, update it however we need to, maybe put a credit limit on them in the beginning. Terms code, we won't offer them anything from a terms perspective. Salesperson, we'll type in the salesperson code, and again, we can type out guidance here as needed. Next, we'll go to contacts, and we can now pick and choose which contacts we actually want to push from Creatio to Sage 100, as well as make any edits here in the screen as well. So let's go ahead and choose to synchronize Parnham and Dahlia. Click Save, move on to addresses, and here we can see the two different locations. One's a billing and a shipping, and one is just a shipping. So if we choose to send both of these across and click Save, now these are ready to go. And if we want to be very explicit, we can say this is the Sperry office and this is the HQ. Save that as well. Revalidate our information, and if all looks well, we can go ahead and push that across. Oh, division. Type in a division number and we'll push it across. So we'll click Save. We'll get this indicator on the screen. It doesn't appear as if anything has happened, but in the background, Creatio is communicating to Sage 100, pushing all of that information across. If we go to the Sage 100 tab, we can now see that this has all the information in it that we were expecting. And if we go into Sage 100 now, inside of customer maintenance, and search for 918 dentist, it comes up. If we go to the sales orders tab, lo and behold, that prospect quote that we ended up creating also shows here and has been reassigned to the correct prospect account. So it ensures any quotations that were done at the prospect level get reassigned to the correct customer whenever the conversion from a prospect to a customer occurs. We can see that it's set the primary contact to Parnham, which is what we did. The primary ship to is the HQ. And if we take a look at our contacts, we can see that both contacts are in here. It's assigned the work and cell phone numbers accordingly for both, as well as their titles. And lastly, from a ship to perspective, you can see here it's brought in both shipping addresses. One's the HQ, which is also the billing, as well as the Sperry office. Now, it brought in the HQ as a ship to address as well because we set that as a setting inside of Creatio. Otherwise, it would have just created one ship to address. Now, the path of promoting a prospect to a customer was pretty straightforward, but more importantly, we can leverage Creatio to handle your customer onboarding processes and streamline them as well. While it's not very obvious on this particular screen, we can set conditions for when this button shows or does not show. So if we require tax information or we require the customer to fill out a profile of some sort and submit it, we can ensure that's done well before anyone even has the ability to click the integration actions button. The fact that that was as easy as it was to create a new customer from Sage 100, but also restrict any clutter from being established within the Sage 100 system, this is honestly where a lot of our Sage 100 customers and partners would cheer out loud, as we've made this super easy, and we're also not cluttering the Sage 100 database with any extensive or invasive impacts to the data tables. All of the data so far has been maintained and contained within Creatio, and any type of integration or connection to a Sage 100 record is housed inside of Creatio, not the Sage 100 database. Lastly, if we go back to a vendor record, this is just to illustrate that we can create a new record of a vendor, establish a history with them, and then once we pick and choose when to push that record into Sage 100, we can do that here. Vendor onboarding, relationship management, that can all be originated within the Creatio system to ensure a consistent onboarding experience is rendered not only to customers, but to vendors as well. While that covers basics of the product itself, I do want to talk about one very impactful and important fact. I mentioned Creatio as a CRM in the beginning. Yes, but Creatio is also a no-code AI native platform, which means if data exists on the system in Creatio, you can leverage modern tools to engage with it. Imagine a world where you can use AI to look at your invoice details over the last 2 years for all of your customer transactions and extrapolate commonly sold items to customers. You are now leveraging AI to create a data-driven approach to flag and analyze new cross-sell and upsell opportunities. Taking that example a step further, you can even say, hey, Creatio AI, show me all of my customers who are prime targets for all of my cross-sell and upsell scenarios. From that list, create an opportunity and assign them for follow-up for the respective account owners in a staggered format for the next week. That is just a simple example of a prompt that can be executed inside of Creatio, leveraging your Sage 100 data and effectively activating it into something truly powerful that can unlock growth for your organization. There are other really great examples that span everywhere from back office operations to customer-facing aspects of the business, but the benefits and possibilities are hopefully more obvious to you just through that example. We've covered quite a bit in this video, but we hope the message is very clear. Sage 100 customers now have a modern CRM that they can connect to their Sage 100 system and truly create an experience that their employees will want to use, as well as create a consistent world-class experience for their customers. If you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you very much. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.